Hi, this is Kristen from FemmeCyclist.com, and today I'm going to explain to you what the difference is between Presta valves and Schrader valves. Now, this is one of the most frequently asked questions we get from beginners, and it is, what the heck is a Presta valve? What the heck is a Schrader valve? How are they different? Is one better than the other? And we're going to go over all of this in this video. I'm going to explain to you what the difference is between a Presta and a Schrader valve, the pros and cons of each, how you use them to pump up your tires, and other questions you might have about bicycle valves. Keep on watching.
Presta valves explained. Presta valves are most common on higher-end bicycles. If you just bought your first nice bike, you might be a little confused about the valve on your bike. Presta valves are skinnier and typically longer than Schrader valves. In order to pump air into the tire or let air out, you must unscrew the top. This locking mechanism is different than a Schrader valve, which uses an internal spring to provide closure. To open the Presta valve, you simply unscrew this lock nut left, and to close it, you screw it right again. Remember, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. Once you have the valve open, a Presta valve is easier to pump than a Schrader valve. This is because you don't have to overcome any valve spring. Because Presta valves are skinnier, the hole in the wheel rim doesn't have to be as large as it does for a Schrader valve. This is important because it means the cross-sectional strength of the wheel is improved, which is particularly important on narrow road wheels. And it's easier to set up the wheels tubeless, which I'll explain more later on. Presta valve pros are that the hole in the wheel's rim can be smaller. It's easier to pump air into the tire. They come in different valve lengths, and it's easier to let air out. Presta valve cons include the fact that the lock nut can seize if it gets dirty or rusty. You can't inflate it at a gas station without an adapter. It might be harder to find a replacement tube, and they're easier to break than a Schrader valve. Schrader valves explained. Chances are you're already familiar with a Schrader valve, especially once you see it. A Schrader valve is the same kind of valve you'd find on a car tire and all kinds of other things that are inflatable. This is the biggest bonus of a Schrader valve. It's easy to find a way to inflate it. Simply head to the gas station or use your air compressor at home. Unlike the Presta valve, with the Schrader valve there is nothing to open or close. There may be a plastic valve cover on your Schrader valve that you need to unscrew, but that will be it. Schrader valves are the most common type of bike valve, and you'll find them on the vast majority of bikes, especially kids' bikes. This also means that it's easier to find a replacement tube when you need one. Even Walmart sells tubes with Schrader valves. Schrader valve pros: it's easy to find a place to inflate. Anywhere that would inflate your car tire will be able to inflate your bicycle tire as well. It's easy to find replacement tubes, and they're more robust than a Presta valve. Schrader valve cons include the fact that it requires a larger hole to be drilled into the wheel's rim. It's harder to pump air into, and it's also harder to let air out of. Most pumps will accommodate either valve. The good news is that most bicycle pumps, both floor pumps and hand pumps, will work to pump up both Schrader valves and Presta valves. Generally, there will be two different heads or a setting to switch, using an adapter. If you're not using a bicycle-specific pump or you're using an air compressor, you'll need to use an adapter if you have a Presta valve. These simply screw onto the Presta valve and provide a head that looks like a Schrader valve. Now you can use it with any pump that would inflate a car tire. Tubes versus tubeless. Both have valves. Most bicycle tires have tubes inside them to hold air, although more and more tires are now tubeless. Tubeless tires are just what they sound like, a tire that has sealant inside it and that does not require a tube to hold air in. A bicycle tube has a valve, either Schrader or Presta. A tubeless tire also has a valve, although there is no tube inside. These valves simply screw into the rim. The vast majority of tubeless valves are Presta valves. Switching valve types.
One common question I hear is whether or not you can switch between Presta tubes and Schrader tubes in your bicycle. The answer is it depends. So if you currently have a Presta valve on your bike, you will not be able to put in a Schrader tube into your bicycle. That's because the hole that's drilled in the rim is just too small to allow the Schrader head. On the other hand, if you currently have a Schrader tube on your bicycle, you should be able to put a tube in that has a Presta valve. That's because it's skinnier. One problem is now there's going to be a gap between the valve and the hole in your wheel. What you can do is you can buy some like little O-rings that fill up that space, or you may be okay if there's not that much space, just leaving it as it is. So now that you know the difference between a Schrader and a Presta valve, you might be wondering, how do I pump up my tires? We've got a video for that also, as well as lots of tips and tricks at femmecyclist.com. Head on over there and we'll try to answer all your questions. We appreciate you watching. Make sure to hit like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.